Hi, I'm McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today I'm going to be reviewing Jocko Willick's take on moving on from a breakup. I got a lot of respect for military. My father was a Marine, and I understand where he's coming from. But it's really interesting to hear his take on something that he doesn't have a lot of sensitivity towards, right? So let's get right into it.
Straight up, move on. Forget them. They are lying and they are untrustworthy. So move on. Now, sometimes this can be hard, especially if they've somehow tied themselves into your life, especially like, for instance, you get the kids involved in a divorce scenario. You can't move on, but you have to mentally move on. You have to emotionally detach from that human, and that's hard to do because obviously they were someone that you trusted, and the reason I know that you trusted them is because they got to a point where they were able to betray your trust and destroy you. So it's hard, but the fact that you trusted them, the fact that you had that relationship, that's even more reason to walk away. It's even more reason to move on. You got to see them for what they are. And this is an important piece right here. This is an important piece. This is something I learned as a young lad out there in the world. That person is not who you thought they were, right? They are not who you thought they were. The idea that this person was a trustworthy, faithful companion is not true. It is not true. That person does not exist. They didn't exist and they don't exist. It was in your head. It was in your head that this person was trustworthy and they were everything you wanted them to be and they were a faithful companion. That is a lie. They are not that person. They have proved it. They've proved it by their actions. So move on, and at the risk of sounding callous, get over it. Get over it. Do not.
Now, this is advice that's to the point. It's direct, and I'll tell you what, he's a Navy SEAL. He's a tough guy. He's obviously highly successful. And so getting over it might be something that is easy for him to tell someone. And by the way, I just mentioned this in a previous video that I was just reviewing about if women hurt more than men. And I was saying that basically what makes you hurt more in a breakup is where you're at as an individual. And I think this would apply the same to what Jocko Willick's saying. If you're in a position where you got a good job, you feel good about yourself, you got a lot of confidence, maybe just look at Jocko Willick, for example. He's going to give advice believing that you're in a place that he's in, because human beings generally give advice unknowingly, subconsciously, as if you live their life, as if you have the same circumstances. So if you get advice from someone that's like highly successful, this guy's in great shape, he's got a background like this, but you're not even close to him as an individual, it's going to be really hard for you to do that. And so some people would go, yeah, you're right, man. I just got to get over this. But if you have a bad job, you hate your family, you feel like you're too short, all these things add up. And these are these limited beliefs. And this is when you talk to someone like myself, a breakup coach, or you talk to someone that's a hypnotherapist, you got to work on other things as an individual. And the problem is when you get in a breakup, the reason why you can't just get over it, move on, is because you have other things, and you don't know this right away because you feel like, it's she left me, he did this. But really, the less you have in order as an individual, the harder it is to get over it, move on, right? And so when he's speaking from a place of success, status, upper echelon of people in his space, he's going to be someone that probably, if he broke up, he would be able to get over it quicker. It would hurt him probably more than he would share. And here's the interesting thing: someone that's married, and I don't know Jocko Willick's background on his marriage or anything like that. I believe he's married. When they're married 10, 15, 20 years and they have a good marriage and they have kids, they look at it like their marriage is not going to end. There's not going to be any problems. And they haven't faced a breakup in so long. But I'll tell you what, I've had guys 15, 20 years that have, been blindsided by a breakup, and they could have gave this advice to someone else. But until you're in the trenches again, until you're dealing with it again, it's not going to be easy just to get over it. That being said, like I said, consider the source. And this kind of, let me add to this. If he had a fellow Navy SEAL that really respected him and they had a lot of morals and values that they shared, and he gave this advice, it might resonate with that individual really well. But like I said, come back to this. Individually based, the only way someone's going to get over it quicker or accept it faster is the fact that they have other things in their life in order, just like Jocko, I believe, probably does. So let's just finish this off.
Do not dwell on what it was. And don't dwell on what it could have been. You hear when guys go through bad breakups, I thought we were going to, it's like, no, don't dwell on that. Deal with what it is right now, what that person is. Deal with reality, accept reality, and be thankful for reality. Be thankful that you were able to learn before you invested more into this person. Be thankful that you found out when you did that this person was a liar, that this person was unfaithful, was untrustworthy. Be thankful that you know it, and you know it now instead of later. And you know what else is going to make?
Right here, he's just helping you build a case, find reason to let it go, which is a great approach. He's saying be thankful, and that's absolutely true, because we didn't get to hear the story that came in here. But if someone breaks up with you and they lied to you, which it sounds like this is what happened in the story he was reading, right? And you have, it is good. It is a good thing that you can be thankful. You're like, I didn't waste my time any further with this person. So you're building a case of why you need to go into no contact, why you need to move on, why you need to do things. And he's saying, like, be thankful for the fact that you found out now. A lot of people go the opposite direction. Oh, I wasted my time. Oh, I was so stupid. Well, now you know. Now you don't need to waste any more time. So this is very direct information. Like I said, it lacks sensitivity and compassion. And I would probably lack compassion because he probably hasn't been in a breakup in a while. And, someone like this would be really interesting to go, so what's your history with relationships, right? And so when someone gives advice like this and has a platform like this and they're giving direct advice, don't have a problem with it. But he's giving advice of what he would do based on his own life. But here's the thing that I've noticed: whether you're a pickup artist, whether you're good with women, whether you're world famous and rich, if relationships, generally speaking, if you've had a few of them, you're going to meet your match one time. You're going to lose someone. And it's not going to be as easy I remember before I had a bad breakup, I had my worst breakup in my late 20s, and it was because of where I was at as an individual. I know that now, right? That's why it hurt more. But the reality is, before that happened, I would give people the same advice. I'd be like, just get over it, just move on. You're good looking, you're this. Because people don't really want to spend time listening to you. And that's why go to a coach like myself or a therapist and air it out. Because before you can get to the point where you just get over it, move on, you got to air everything out. You got to be heard. You got to release some emotion. All right, let's get back into it and see if we can finish this off.
Make it a lot easier to get over these situations is recognize that there's plenty of people out there in the world that are trustworthy and that are faithful, good people. They're out there. Go find one of them. But don't think that person that you had was the only one in the world. They're not. And you know what? Sometimes people have a hard time making that trust because they're so caught up and they don't want to meet someone else right away. That's fine. Start with yourself. Right? Rely on yourself. Trust yourself. Because when someone breaks our trust, we question ourselves too.
Yes.
Like we think my judgment's bad. I'm not a good judge of human character because I totally put my faith in this person and look what they did to me. So now we don't trust her. So you got to build that trust up. You got to build that trust up back again with yourself. How do you do that? Read, write, learn, work out, be alone. It's okay to be alone. Some people get freaked out when they're alone. It's okay to be alone. It's okay. It's okay to be alone. There's no big deal. Enjoy it.
So this is the thing too. All right. So like if you have trouble being alone, it might be deeper. And this is where this is, say this with respect, it's an ignorant statement. Well, just be okay with being alone. And this is something I would say to other people in the past. But now doing this for a little while, getting certified in hypnotherapy, going deeper and deeper with what I do and talking to so many different people, it's not that simple. So if someone has a lot of issues being alone and you're like, you just got to be okay with being alone. But if you dig deeper and you peel back more layers and they were abandoned or they were adopted or they had a really traumatic relationship in their past, they need to find the seed to why they feel desperate or needy when they're alone. It's not just so simple to move on, right? So what I'm saying is, I agree with this information, and this information and this advice would land very well for certain people that are more similar to him and where he's at. And this is very important. That's why when you don't talk to someone that's objective or it's their job or career to talk to people about their relationships, right? And you get advice from someone that's famous that you respect and you like about a relationship, they're going to give you advice based on their life experience and based on what they would do and based on how they would recover. Because I believe what Jocko's saying would work for him. I think that he would be strong about it. He'd be very good if he was alone. And now that I've talked to so many people, it's like just saying like, be okay with being alone. Well, I can't. And you go, well, you gotta move on. Right? It's like, wait a minute. Let's find the seed of why you have problems being alone. Wait a minute. He's just saying, write, read, and be alone are some of these things to do. Like a lot of times people go, read these books, right? Some people don't like reading books. Some people don't soak in stuff like that. Intricate human beings with nuance. This is one of the biggest things I'll punch home again and again to people. When you're in a breakup, you have an issue, get tailored advice to you. This is advice to someone that would be a similar outlook to Jocko, which I think is fine because his audience probably shares a lot of his views. But to put it in actual play for a lot of people would be more difficult. All right, let's continue it.
Do something productive and build that trust up in yourself. Look back at the situation, learn from it. We do that. It's an post-operational debrief. Oh, you've put too much trust in somebody? Cool. They broke your heart? All right, roger that. Let's see. What were the steps? What should I have recognized? How many times did I say, well, they didn't call me, but it's probably just because their phone was out of battery. No. Once your phone runs out of battery once, okay, you don't let it happen again, right? Yeah. So you start seeing those red flags, see the mistakes that you made, and then look for them next time around. Because you deal with people all the time that they made mistakes the first run. They go back and they make the same mistakes the second run. They go back and make the same mistakes the third run. That's when you got to start blaming yourself on your situation. Yeah. That's why I said you got to build a relationship with yourself. You got to learn yourself. You got to trust. You got to learn to trust yourself. So spend some time doing that. And
absolutely agree with this. You notice that he's referencing a military style of going back and checking this, roger that. I agree with what he says. Learn yourself. Look at the patterns that someone's doing, right? So if someone's saying, oh, I couldn't call you because my phone died, like he said, really? You couldn't? So I'm okay with this. But and I agree with him. But to say that when he's making these references of people acting needy, especially men acting needy, and they're looking back like, why did I do that? It's deeper than just in the moment or being manipulated. It comes from somewhere farther down, right? And when you start to peel back the layers of who you were in a relationship, It's actually who you were before the relationship even started. Think about that for a minute, right? And so, like I said, it was a good reference here because he goes into kind of a military thing, which military guys would be able to relate to. But is everyone relate to that? I'm not sure. I still like the advice, but
then when you go back and you start dealing with people, because that's what you got to watch out for, is that you become a hardened criminal and
Yes.
you don't trust anybody.
Yes.
Like you were talking about cops. You know, sometimes cops have a hard time because they're dealing with scumbags all day long,
Right.
and it builds up this mistrust of other people. So you don't want to have that happen. You want to be suspicious of people, but you want to be able to build trust once they prove themselves. So take those small steps and start to build up over time. Don't just jump in and give someone 100% trust out of the gate. You don't know them. You don't know them. You know, back in the day when old hardcore bands used to have this T-shirt that just said "Trust no one." I was like, yeah, that's legit, right? You don't go out of the gate with the big trust on somebody with important stuff.
Yeah.
Don't do it. But the good news is, like I said, there's plenty of people out there that are good people that you can give all your trust to. Just take it slow, brother.
Yeah. And it's so crazy how you just explain that so simple. And it makes total sense when you're in the situation, though. All the emotions, you know? Like, you can't just detach and be like, what are the red flags? No,
Yeah.
you're just too busy
No.
missing the person or
No,
whatever.
Yeah, you're a disaster.
So, and I get it.
Tears,
But even
crying, throwing things,
But brother-
looking at pictures. That's the worst.
Yeah, don't look at pictures.
Get out the picture and stare. I've seen guys doing that. I'm like, bro, just give me that. Let me throw this away for you. It's not going to help. That person is,
Yeah.
that was always to me was explaining, like, listen, because guys, what she was, no, she wasn't.
Yeah.
That is a lie. That person that you put together in your head, that you've assembled in your mind, that person doesn't exist. They don't exist. The person that you dealt with was a liar. Was unfaithful.
I'm just going to end it here because what he's doing is this is what happens when you have a friend like this or a colleague like this and their feelings aren't attached and they're just oblivious to the fact of how much you're entangled in it and have zero compassion. He's right. Pictures are the worst thing to look at. Social media is the worst thing to look at. And from the outside in, it's like, why are you doing that? I have this all the time in coaching sessions. It's like, I just took a look at her Instagram again. It dropped me down to 0. It's like, why are you doing that, right? You need to talk to someone about it that's actually going to unpack it with you for 10, 15 minutes, be a bit compassionate, give you advice, and not just go, stop doing that. Okay? And this is a great example of being cognizant and aware of who you're going to with your breakup or with your problem. So if you go to someone like Jocko Willick and he's your buddy, right? He's just going to give you short, direct information. His feelings aren't involved. He's a military guy, and that's how it's going to be. And for some people, it can make them feel worse, right? Because he's just showing zero compassion, right? And he knows, like, yeah. It's like, and he obviously hasn't been anywhere near a breakup in a long time. He doesn't have time for it. He doesn't agree with it. He believes that he could just get through one so quickly. And so my point is, when you get to these points, this is a time to talk to someone that's a therapist or a coach that's been doing it for a while, that's willing to talk to you for an hour, 2 hours, right? That's willing to unpack the whole thing with you, to go through it. And then you can get some clarity. You can get some ideas. Because what he's saying is true. Like, you go back through it, you're like, oh, she lied to me, she did this, she did that, he did this, he did that. But you don't just get over it, right? Put it in the comments below what you think about this video and what you think about this information. And let me know if there's another reaction video you want me to do in the future.